Good morning, everyone. I'm Kimberly Chalia with PHCA. Thanks so much for joining us for today's webinar. A few quick updates to share before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the PHCA website. The webinar has been approved for one continuing education credit for all PHCA members in attendance. As we begin today, all attendees should be in listen-only mode. Please feel free to submit any questions that you may have utilizing the chat icon on the bottom of your screen, and we'll make sure to answer as many of those questions as possible at the end of today's presentation. Now I'll turn it over to Clint.
Thanks, Kim. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. My name is Clint Maun, senior partner at Maun-Lemke Speaking and Consulting. We're talking today about fixing staffing, or the ability to make staffing better. And we're going to work on three areas: recruiting, selecting, retaining quality coworkers. I will say to you, we do this all day, every day. We form groups of individual locations, put them in a 16-week coaching process, rapid cycle, use small teams from each location, and really dive into the ability to stair-step the work to improve staffing. And I say this to you because we found that organizations and individual locations can have great success on staffing if they follow some select principles. I'm going to give you some of those today and some techniques. I'd be happy to answer any questions at the end, or if you want to follow up, be happy to do that too. So we put the slides up if we could, and we'll get started here. Guess we're just waiting for the slides to pop up. There we go. Thank you. If you need me, there's our phone number there, or email. Be happy to work with you. Anyway, we're calling this today Finding and Keeping Great Coworkers, but the specific product name behind that is the Accelerated Staffing Fix: Recruiting, Selecting, and Retaining Quality Coworkers. And I will tell you that teams working in rapid cycle effort at the local level with great any available home office or regional support folks can make a big difference in making staffing more stabilized. You can refresh your staffing, which has needed to be done following the great COVID situation. It's still going on, but the great COVID situation. And it's possible to then stabilize, and then it's possible to thrive in the ability to recruit, select, and retain quality coworkers. I've been in healthcare myself for a long, long time. Started as a teenager needing to escape a hog farm. My father kept saying, "This could all be yours." And I went, gosh, I need to do something different. So I went to town. The local nursing home hired me as a direct care worker, worked in different departments through high school into college, got into management, executive leadership, equity positions, all that kind of stuff in healthcare. And staffing has been, throughout my history, 40, 50 years, bad, better, better, worse, worse, better, 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 worse, better, 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 worse, better, better, and then it unwound during COVID. Well, we've had the opportunity to work on this for years and years and years and years. I just want to give you a message of hope to start with. So what we do is we use a system that starts with P equals S. And what that means, P, if there's a problem, S, we have to talk about solution. P equals S, problems equal solutions. So no whining, sniveling, complaining, griping, moaning, whatever, it's P equals S. In fact, you executive team members or managers on this call, You know who you are with doors should have signs on your door that say enter with solutions. You should quit letting people come in with all the problems. You should have voicemails that say, hi, this is Kim. I knew you'd be calling. You always do. After the beep, please leave the problem you're about to leave for me, along with 2 solutions you believe I should implement to fix the problem. Otherwise, I should delete the message. That is a different thing than saying, hi, this is Kim. I'm so sorry I'm unavailable. Your call is very important to me. At the beep, please take your truck, back your trash into my landfill and dump it. So we believe P equals S is the way to go. Now, having said that, I say that to you because there's a lot of stuff going on in healthcare today, and rightfully so, about the woes, the staffing shortage, the pending mandates, the issues of where we get people. The young folks don't have a great work ethic. The older folks have retired on the job. I'm the only dang good person left in this organization to work. We go the other way. And I'll take the next slide, Mike. And the next slide is that there's plenty of great help. They just don't work for you. Don't know they need to work for you. Go drive right past you to work for you, or haven't been recruited to work for you, or here's the rest of that sentence, used to work for you and you ground them up like hamburger. So when we talk about this, we're going to talk about a solution-oriented culture of plentifulness rather than the problem issue that goes on. Now, the next slide, please. People don't leave a job, they leave a relationship. You've heard that before, but here's the truth statistically. They leave you even before the interview because they never really wanted the job. They just wanted to prove to unemployment, their family members, somebody else, or the current employer that they could be employed somewhere down the road. And so it was a bad hookup to start with, a bad relationship to start with. And so you have to stop quick hiring people just because they were present in an interview process. And so they've already left you before the interview. We just didn't recognize it. The other reason they leave is because of their boss, their supervisor. When I say boss, I'm talking about their direct unit manager, charge nurse, supervisor person. The third reason they left you is because of a coworker that didn't treat them very well. We have a lot of wolves eating the young. And the fourth reason they left is because the boss didn't do anything what they needed to do to stop the coworker or coworkers from treating people badly, or set up a protection system, or quick hired people that they shouldn't have hired, or let other people quick hire people that we shouldn't have hired. So it all comes back to the boss. And that starts with the leadership in the organization at the local level and the supervisory talent that we have in the building. So when we understand that it's a relationship that's broken, not a job, then we can prevent that from happening. So the next slide, please. The key to this is the reverse order. Vigorously keep the ones you want and find the ones that want to find you. What does that mean? You have to stop playing finders keepers. Finders keepers means I promise to keep them if we can just find them. And that gets into quick hiring, recruiting at all cost, whatever it takes to get them in the door is not going to work. It's not finders keepers, ladies and gentlemen. It's keepers who deserve to be found. Keepers who deserve to be found. And that brings us that the situation is about retention first. Now, I say that to you because I'm going to give you some statistics in a minute, and I'm going to give you some help right off the bat that makes your life a lot easier on your stabilization of staff. And I'm talking about vacancy count reduction, turnover reduction, specifically early turnover, agency spend, the ability to have engaged staff at a heightened level of engagement. All the metrics you want to measure are possible if you use keepers who deserve to be found, not play finders keepers. Because finders keepers is a game we've done forever in healthcare. We work with nursing homes and assisted livings and CCRCs and special need programs and hospital systems. You name it in healthcare, we work with it all day. And it always comes down to the ability to have keepers that we want to keep that deserve to be found, and then build off of that base. So let me give you a story. You're in your mature part of life, and you're ready to retire with your significant other, and you want a little space and a little happiness and a little freedom. And so, but for the holidays or for some anniversary or birthday, your family members, your kids, your somebody gives you a pet. Not that you wanted it, you just got yourself emancipated. Your credit card's paid down. You were going to be enjoying traveling or, driving an RV across the country and pumping sewage at every KOA campground in America, or you were going to go to destination locations, or you were going to relax, whatever. But no, they gave you a pet. Now, the pet is not a baby puppy, a baby kitty. It wasn't even a pet lizard, a pet boa constrictor named Squeezy. They gave you a baby elephant. So you take the elephant in because you don't want to be mean to your significant family members or friends, and you take the elephant in. So you put the elephant in the house. The elephant starts needing to be fed. So you've got an intake issue. You got to feed the elephant, and it's not just for peanuts, it's more than that. And then there's an output issue. So you got to take care of the other side of the elephant kind of thing. So we got an input output issue going on. The elephant continues to grow. It's starting to make noise. It's starting to wake up the neighbors. It's causing the police to come over and say, you're making noise. You're trying to put a doily on top of the elephant to decorate around it. You're sticking a lamp in the trunk of the elephant to make it look better. You're looking at TV under the elephant's legs, and it's eating you out of house and home. It's making noise. It continues to grow and grow and grow and grow until it finally busts out of the house, takes over the house, and absolutely ruins everything for you. And what am I talking about using that analogy? And that is the next slide. The elephant in the room is early turnover. Early turnover. It will kill you. And here's the national numbers, and you can check your own numbers. Maybe you're better or worse. 40% of the turnover is in the first 90 days of employment. That's the elephant. 40% of the turnovers in the first 90 days of employment. If you can keep them 90 days, you can keep them 9 months. If you can keep them 9 months, you can keep them 2.5 years. And if you can get the early turnover down to 10% or 12% versus 40, 45, some clients we work with, 70% of their turnovers in the first 90 days, you can do it because the elephant keeps growing. You keep feeding it. You keep replacing. And see, you keep talking about turnover being a percentage, but the truth of the matter is you replace that one nurse aide on 100 wing 6 times on the afternoon shift this year. That's 600% turnover. You replace that one nurse 3 times in a half a year on B wing. That's 600% turnover. You've replaced that one cook 4 times this year. That's 400%. So it keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. You then accept it. You devote time to it. You try to work around it. You keep feeding it, and the elephant takes over the whole house. So if we go to the next slide, the early turnover I've already mentioned. And so what do you have to do to stop early turnover? And that's the first step to making a difference. And I want to talk about that right now because that becomes the focus of the retention strategy that we start with in these 16-week rapid cycle teaming processes to stop the early turnover and then work on other turnover pieces, retention, then move quickly into how we select good people, and then go into how we recruit good people who deserve to be selected, that deserve to be retained. So it's not recruitment, selection, retention, ladies and gentlemen. It's retention of highly selected people who were mutually recruited, meaning they want you, you wanted them. So let's move through what you have to do. So you have to bubble wrap the new employees. And if you work with us, that becomes a term you hear continuously. We measure it, we talk about it, and there's a lot of systems in it that we go quickly to put in place. I'm going to give you some of them today, but they will cut your early turnover because you're protecting the new employees. I'm not telling you not to engage the existing staff, the staff with longevity. I'm not saying that you don't engage them. In fact, we have techniques for that. I'm trying to show you that you have to make a difference. Now, the first step in bubble wrapping new employees. I already gave you a while ago. That's not even listed up here. And that is quit hiring people that you shouldn't hire. And that means you have to quit quick hiring people to fill vacancies that are not going to be proven, vetted out, checked out. And I'll get into that again in a minute. So what do you do to bubble wrap new employees once you've hired good ones? The first one, you can't float new help. What does that mean? No new help floats for the first 30 days. They do not work another assignment, another unit, another shift. They work the same assignment, same unit, same shift for 30 days. That will cut early turnover by 11% right there, because they get floated around, usually because no one protects them to do that. Scheduling didn't intend to do it, but they needed them, particularly on the weekend. Every bad thing happens on the weekend. Every bad thing happens on the weekend. One more time, every bad thing happens on the weekend. They're then ground up like hamburger, and we lose them, and they no call, no show, and we blame them because we're the ones that did it to them. So no floating new help for 30 days. And healthcare has a horrible habit of calling it, why don't you seek where you want to be, or cross training, or we have all these terminologies. They don't work. Statistically, they do not work. You have to keep people in a one location place. The second thing you have to do, you have to stop gamers. Now, there's 150 different gamers, but I'm going to talk today about one gamer that you have to be able to deal with, and that is the gamer who calls in sick this weekend. By the way, they always call in sick on the weekend. They now have had their fifth dead grandmother of the year. Their entire relatives die on the weekends. I'm not sure why that's going on, but they call off on the weekend, and then next Wednesday, they'll gratefully work a double for you. So you paid them PTO or pay for being sick on the weekend, and then paid them overtime pay or premium shift bonus pay on Wednesday. So they got 88 hours of pay for only working 72, and they do it 8, 9, 10, 11 payrolls out of 26. These people are gamers. They're individualized self-schedulers. The more important point, they don't just game on this. They're the people that also clock in 7 minutes early every day to pick up some extra overtime. They clock in 7 minutes late every day to pick up some extra overtime. They forget the lunch punch. They're on their 27th break of the day. They're always instead of working on the floor, they're in a roller chair. I mean, I can keep going and going with different gamers, but the reason you have to stop gamers is they put tremendous pressure on the scheduler or the scheduler to fix that situation. And we end up kowtowing to these people because we forgave them for the weekend call off and then called them a saint or a hero because they picked up a double for us on Wednesday. And if you check your payroll figures, some of you will have 4, 5, 6 of these people making huge amounts of money, not putting in full shifts for 80 hours. And here's the worst thing, statistically, and I'm not trying to give you a stat class, but we go through this statistically under cause and effect. Gamers are individuals who also are not extremely nice to new help. And they're rude and unpleasant because they do not want you to fix staffing in the building because they need chaos to keep the drama going so they can do what they want to do and work when they want to work. And by the way, these people who are repetitively absent, I understand if COVID's going on, I understand if they're truly ill, but people who are repetitively absent, particularly on a patterned way, and then want to pick up later, they weren't absent. They weren't sick. They were picking up shifts for the agency or for your competitors right down the road. So these gamers destroy a lot of consistency and stabilization, and they're particularly hard on new help, and we end up grinding up new help when we allow gamers to happen. This is another 9% reduction in early turnover when you stop gamers. And how do you stop gamers? It's a real simple thing. Now, we go into more detail than this today, but it's a real simple thing. If you call off sick in this pay period, you are not getting overtime in the same pay period. Now, next pay period, you don't call off, you can have all the overtime you want, but you're not going to get overtime when you call off in this pay period. It's a real simple way to stop gamers. Most comply, most get on board. There are a couple of them that will go down the road to try to pull it off on the neighbors down the road. And I'm not promising you that our systems keep everybody. I will tell you, over the years, you might have to lose a couple people to gain a whole bunch. By the way, in most locations, I don't care whether we work in New York City, in Manhattan with 600-bed buildings, or on the prairie, which we do in the middle of South Dakota or Wyoming, where there's more cattle than there are humans. I will tell you, the words on the street, don't come to work up there because they have these people there. I mean, I guarantee you that goes on. So you have to stop gamers. The third thing you have to do is you have to put a mentor system in place. Some of you have a mentor system. Some of you have a partial mentor system. But a good mentor system will cut early turnover by 28%. It's the biggest thing you can do. The biggest thing you can do to cut early turnover is a mentor. Now, our program for mentoring, with more detail than this, is that the mentor is parallel scheduled with the new employee. So as an example, if Kim's the new employee and she comes out of the orientation class, hopefully not bored to sleep because we showed her mandatory videos and it was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Bueller, 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 and we wore her out with and waterboarded her. But anyway, she survived orientation class. She comes out and her first schedule is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So her mentor, let's say that's Mike, my friend from our company who's helping me today, and he's the mentor. Mike is parallel scheduled with Kim Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's not, here's your mentor today, here's your mentor tomorrow. Whoops, we don't have a mentor on the weekend. Good luck. Everything bad happens on the weekends, I say. So they are parallel scheduled to be mentors. Now, in our system, if you want to pay them 50 cents or $1 an hour or more to be a mentor, that's fine. But technically what that ends up doing is causing them to need more turnover to get more mentor pay. We believe that for that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days, whatever they need to be trained up on that unit with a job-specific checklist by the mentor, that mentor who's mentor worthy, earned the right to be a mentor, gets paid based on the person staying. So if Mike's the mentor in our world, Mike gets a bonus check at 30 days. He gets another bonus check if Kim's still there at 90 days. He gets another bonus check if Kim's there in 180 days. So Mike is being paid as a mentor to keep the person. So Mike doesn't just work with Kim for the 5 or 6 or 7 days of mentoring on the unit. He goes back to his original schedule after that, or unit or shift. But Mike checks in on Kim, goes to lunch with her, sees how she's doing, even in some cases with her permission, calls her on the weekend. Are you doing okay? Everything all right? You coming back? He's a protectorant. He's part of the safety net under the trapeze wire. And Mike gets paid to do this. Now, we use the mentors for many other things too, in kind of a informal career ladder opportunity. But we believe that a great mentor glommed on, and I use the word glom, kind of like Gorilla Glue, to the new employee, parallel scheduled, that's rewarded for retention, will help bubble wrap new employees. We have the data on that. The fourth system we put in place is 7 interactions in the first 30 days, which means that in the first 30 days, a leader from the organization, a department head, a manager, a supervisor, a mentor, is going to come out and do an assigned check-in touch point with the new employee. So in 30 days, there's going to be 7 of them with Kim, the new employee, on day 2 and day 5 and day 9. Now we space these out based on whether Kim's a brand new person, never been a CNA before, or whether she's returned to work for us after she tried the grass was greener someplace else, or whether she's a seasoned professional that we were able to recruit to come to us. So the spacing of those 7 interactions can be customized, but you put a grid together, there's 7 interactions. And then the 5th system is that you have to have vibrant leadership rounds. And I can't tell you enough how important it is for the leaders, and specifically administrators, director of nursing, and other leaders, to be out of their offices on regular rounds, which you do anyway, you know, for various things, whether environmental rounds or safety rounds or, you know, infection control rounds or whatever. But then you stop in and check on the new employee on top of these planned 7 interactions. And the great advantage of leadership rounds, the leaders can also stop in and chat up the existing employees. So I can come over here to Mary and say, hey, Mary, you know, I haven't seen you for a while because I work in the dietary department, but how you doing? How's everything going? Did your kid do well in football this year? I know that he was a starter. So now you've got engagement processes built in for the existing help and the new help. Plus, you've got 7 interactions for the new help. Plus, you've got mentors tied to the new employee. Plus, you've stopped gamers. Plus, you're not floating them. Now you can make real movement on retaining coworkers and cut the trauma of 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 1 out. So that becomes a model. Now we have other systems and more detail to that process, but you can see that you bubble wrapping the new employees, protecting them, because it took you a lot to find them and it took you a lot to vet to hire them. So then you have to be willing to protect them versus just go, well, we're going to take them. They've never worked in healthcare before, so we're going to hire them as a brand new personal care aide and put them through the nurse aide class and see if they make it. You got to quit running Marine boot camps to see if people can make it. It's not going to work out. You're not going to achieve success. You're not going to hit staffing standards. You're not going to be able to move the needle. It's going to affect quality. It's going to affect spend, cost of labor, particularly when you're using agency. You're going to have the ability to have customer service problems. It's going to affect star ratings. I can go on and on with the correlations on this. So let's move to the next system then, which actually started at the beginning. I told you, you have to quit selecting by one person doing the hiring. We have clients we work with where talent acquisition, which we love talent acquisition and talent professionals seeking employees, but they're also doing the hiring. First of all, that takes away from their recruiting process. But second of all, you shouldn't have somebody picking your help for you in the building. There's no ownership. And ownership is 9/10. Ownership's a bad term. I don't want to sound like you're owning employees, but the ownership of the hiring decision needs to be at the local level. So we believe that selection is team-based, which means we eventually install, even in locations that don't think they can do it, 2 up, 2 over interviews. So that means if we're hiring a brand new employee and that brand new employee is a nurse aide, that 2 up means that their boss, the unit manager or the shift coordinator, interviews them and the boss's boss interviews them. That's 2 up. And then eventually we put in 2 over, where 2 peers are also involved in the interviews. 2 up, 2 over. And we work with many healthcare organizations where the people who are in charge of these folks as their supervisors and leaders in the departments or out on the units are not even involved in the interviewing. So why would they care what happens or who we hired, because they have no vested interest in belonging? And people say, well, how do we get the time to do that? The answer is you can't afford not to do it, because if you're picking people for people, it's not going to work out. It statistically is not going to work out. So 2 up and then 2 over. Naturally, you have to be able to do behavioral interview questions. Many of you are familiar with that. But let's say that I wanted to ask a new employee as a CNA if they had dependability, meaning they'd show up for work. So here's a silly question. If I was interviewing Kim as a potential applicant, Kim, do you think you'd have any problems showing up for work? Now, only a nut's going to go, yeah, I was planning on missing a lot of work, and I heard this was the building you could miss a lot of. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, I'm dependable. You can count on me. You didn't learn anything. The question repackaged is, Kim, this is a behavioral interviewing question. Kim, give me an example in the past when you had a problem being able to be at school or your previous job and you weren't going to be able to make it. How'd you handle it? Then you shut up. And that is a skill in interviewing, how to keep your pie hole closed and get their pie hole flapping. And so the secret is to get them talking. And so here's a great answer. by Kim. Well, I had a problem at the last job because my kids were ill and daycare wouldn't watch them. So I had to call in like I was supposed to, several decades in advance of my shift, or 30 minutes or whatever. And but then I found a friend that would watch my kids, and I came on into work and finished up the shift because I knew they needed the help and worked into the evening. That's a pretty good answer. Wow. Versus, well, if you've got sick babies and no support systems and daycare won't take them and the truck don't run, whatever, some kind of country western song, you're just going to miss a little work. She's already told you she's going to miss work if the times get tough. So if you hire her, who's the problem, her or you? She already told you what the answer was going to be. So that brings us to cooperation. You'd like to know if people get along with people. Again, a silly question would, Kim, do you have any problems getting along with people? Well, again, no one's going to go, yeah, you shouldn't put me with people. Well, Kim, that's a little bit of a problem since you're a certified nursing assistant. The question repackages, Kim, describe for me a time in your past job or at school when you had a conflict with a boss, a coworker, a family member, a resident, a patient. How'd you handle that? And then you keep quiet. And she says, well, Clint, I don't think I've ever, take your time. And she says, well, Clint, there was this time I had a problem working with Mary over here at the other building. She was kind of rude. And I got to tell you, she wasn't very nice sometimes. And I finally decided I had to work with her. I didn't have to like her. So I talked with her after work. We worked it out. And you know what? She and I got along pretty good. In fact, when I moved over here and I was leaving, she's the one that gave me the going away party. That's a pretty good answer versus, well, I just snitched on her and got her fired. I called the state and got her license. I took her out in the parking lot and beat her up. I mean, you can get the answer to any question you want if you ask the right question. The question is about the past. Here's one of the silliest questions people ask. What are your goals, Kim? She can't win. If she says, I'd like to keep this CNA job forever, she looks like she has no initiative. She says, I'd like to take your job one day, Clint. She risks I'm a paranoid schizophrenic. You don't ask people what their goals are. You say, Kim, describe for me the goals you set for yourself in the past. And then you listen. And if she says, here's what I did, and here's what I'm doing, and here's how it stopped, but here's what I've started again, that's pretty good. If she says, goals, I just wake up in the morning and make sure I'm decent enough to go to work. Well, she doesn't have any goals, if that's what you want to ask about goals. So the point is, you have to have pre-planned behavioral interviewing questions in a file folder for every team member to answer, ask 2 or 3 of them, and you can do all of them together, or you can do 2 and then 1 and then 1, whatever, but team-based interviews, behavioral interview questions, and then you decide if it's 4-0 and we decide we want to move forward, we offer the job pending reference checks. If it's a 3-1 vote, my recommendation is you wouldn't hire the person because the person that said that we don't think we ought to hire them is going to end up not being supportive of the hire anyway, maybe even sabotage them. So now, if you can never get a 4-0 vote, you're too picky. If you always get a 4-0 vote, you're way too loose. So we're looking for that. Now, I can't tell you on selection how important it is to have reference checks. People say, well, they don't tell you anything, but they worked here on this date and what's that? Do the reference checks. Now, if you want my advice, you would do personal reference checks. There's nothing wrong with that. Give me a friend, a pastor, a priest, a relative, and 28% of people's own personal references do not check out. People's own mother says, I love her like a daughter, but I wouldn't hire her. People's own brother, people's pastor, you cannot believe what people will tell you. Check references. And then my last recommendation under selection, if I were you, for people who've never been in this profession before, never worked in a congregate healthcare environment or whatever, and are considering coming to work here, I would pay, and you have to set it up with HIPAA and all this stuff. That's more detail and we'll get in here. But I would consider shadowing before even interviewing and have them come in and spend a little time with a known person that's good to see if the job meets what they want to do. Why would you put them in a place they've never been and try to describe it on orientation videos and tapes and trainings and whatever, why not just spend a little money on job shadowing to let them see if it's a job they want? It pays off in the end. So those are some recommendations on selection. And then, of course, on recruitment, the next slide, Mike. Several things. First of all, you have to quit putting weakness-based ads out. And that means getting on Indeed or whatever your platform is and filling a box full of all the openings you have. Wanted, 3 aides, 2 nurses, an administrator, an owner, 2 cooks. People look at that ad and go, God, they need help. I mean, it's a weakness-based ad. You have to move to strength-based ads. And strength-based ads is where we put an ad out that says, what makes Mike different as a CNA here at the name of our building? Mike works here because bullet, bullet, bullet. We like Mike because bullet, bullet, bullet. Exact quotes from us and him. If you like what Mike likes and meets his needs, there's one position to work with Mike. That is strength-based advertising versus throwing a bunch of openings out there. I have to stop 5 or 6 healthcare buildings in suburban or rural locations every 3 months from buying the sales barn sign with a big arrow lighted flashing out on the highway with all the job openings that people have in the building. Well, first of all, who's stopping to read that sign if they're driving 45 miles an hour past that sign? They can't read it. Second of all, it only tells everybody in town, including all your potential customers, that you've got no help. Why would you put that kind of stuff out like that? You've got to quit running weakness-based advertising and move to strength-based ads. The second thing, I have no problem with hire-on bonuses if you want to do them. I will tell you they're a statistically negative ROI. They do not produce a positive return on investment because you end up chasing people who didn't stay for as long, and I can go through a list. We do like staff referral bonuses where any staff member in any department, including management, is eligible to find us targeted positions for a period of time, time-dated coupon. We usually go for our 16 weeks. And if you find that person and they come on board and they stay 30 days, you get a bonus. If they stay 90, you get another bonus. If they stay 6 months, you get another bonus. We're big advocates of 30, 90, and 180. And staff referral bonuses do work, particularly if they're significant enough to get people's attention, and you can create an entire environment. You can give away big checks at rally boards. We have a whole process with scoreboards and rallies, very simple to have fun and energy in the building. You have to be willing to use HQE ads. That ties to A above. That's highly qualified employee ads. That's what HQE means. So if Mike meets the standards for an HQE, highly qualified employee, and there's a list, then we're featuring him on the ads and the strength-based ads. We're using that on social media. We're using it from our talent recruitment basis. We're using those HQE ads on our own staff's personal social media sites to help because they get the staff referral bonuses, see, so we give them ammunition to refer. Social media does work. I will tell you, if you need nurses, statistically, if you get your own nurses to sign on and work LinkedIn on their phone app and give them a couple, 3 times a week where they can make connections, LinkedIn's a great way to find nurses. Facebook still works along with Snapchat, Instagram, even TikTok for nurse aides. Social media is a big deal. But you have to put out energy, fun, and excitement. You can't put out wanted, we're desperate, we have all kinds of openings. No one's going to do that. We do have an ability to create, with some of our clients, loan repayment. Tuition reimbursement's a fine program. The problem with tuition reimbursement is somebody has to make a lifestyle change and get support at home to go to nursing school or LPN school from a nurse aide or LPN school to an RN. It's fine. It just takes time. Loan repayment, I'm better off going after people in the marketplace that have a loan repayment that needs to be made that's $200, $300, $400, $500 a month in some cases. And if you come to work for us, for every month you work for us, we'll make the loan repayment to the school. Now, we always make the payment to the school, not to them, because it may or may not get made. So and if you quit, we quit making the payments. So we've had very good success on that. And the last thing on recruitment, you have to be willing to play hardball. Now, when I say play hardball, I'm not talking about that you go into the neighbor competitor buildings when they're on duty or in the parking lot to steal help. I'm just saying you have to be competitive to go get the people you want to get and use a team effort to do it, and an all hands on deck effort to recruit and to reward and recognize your team for doing it. Because if you don't do it, the neighbors will. It's kind of like college football today, where there's name, image, likeness money, and you want people to transfer or come to your school, and you've got a lot of team players on the team and coaches and alumni and whatever helping recruit. You have to play hardball in that venue. You can't get into the habit of, well, we take one and they take one and we take one and they take one. We take everybody we need, and winner, winner, chicken dinner. And if we finish first, then it's our job. If we found them, then and we vet them and we select good ones and we pass on some that we shouldn't hire, then we have to retain them. So our model in this program is it's retention, it's the ability to select people, it's the ability to recruit people. And if you work it in that order, stair-stepped, using a team approach, people say, well, Clint, are you saying you can make a big difference in 16 weeks? Yeah, we can get the plane in the air. And I'm talking about 30, 40, 50% improvement in agency spend. I'm talking about, and you can look on our website on those kind of things, and this stuff you can do yourself. I'm talking about it's your ability to cut vacancy count. I'm talking about the ability to have a more engaged staff. I'm talking about having more recruits come. I'm talking about the word on the street changing, because it's really like a kaleidoscope. For any of you remember that, where you just turn the rocks a little bit and there's a whole new pattern. And that's what the team has to do. And if they get busy on it and they work it and they get the support. But here's the thing, guys. When I talk to local people that are leaders in buildings, and I'll be honest, I ask them, what's your census? Well, they know it might be off one bit hold from what the home office thinks or something. I ask them, how many in-house acquired pressure injuries did you have? And they say none in the last 2 weeks. I say, were there any falls in the last month? And they go, there was one, and So we know clinical issues. We know. I ask people, what's your accounts receivable, your accounts payable? They know those numbers. I ask people, what's your turnover? And a lot of people will say, Clint, I'll get HR to get it to you. It's not HR's turnover, it's your turnover. Our model is to have great HR support, great HR systems, great home office and regional support, but it's a local-based effort by a team that makes a difference. The reason we do it with groups of buildings on is to create energy for people to be able to brag out what they do, and one building to learn from another building what they tried or their technique was based on one of our assignments. They all get to hear the great stuff. They get brag outs by any other leaders at the regional and home office. And we actually have cohorts or collaboratives that are made up of people from different organizations, 3 from this one and 2 from this one, or whatever. But the learnings about being on a group coaching process, the secret is not that. The secret is that the team at the local level, with some energy, that named their super team something other than fix staffing or do Clint stuff, but something exciting. We have a team in the West Coast that called themselves Just for the Halibut, and they have halibut masks on every meeting. We have a team called the Avengers, and they actually wear Avenger costumes for a lot of the meetings because they need some fun in the building, particularly after the post-traumatic stress disorder of COVID. And so creating some energy, some fun, some local-based excitement with a proven set of systematic dosing where you don't give it to people all at once and say, go do it, has tremendous success as you move forward in the world. And what you you get out of that is stair-stepped improvement. You get people bragging out. We cut spend this week. We cut absence down. We're big on about absence management because it doesn't do any good to hire people if they don't, and have people at work if they don't show up for work. So you got to cut absence and agency spend, and you get to brag out new hires. And we've lost nobody in bubble wrap, and we got this many leadership rounds going. And anyway, because we make everybody not only listen on the weekly call, but turn in a report on the metrics every week, the day before the meeting. And that way they get feedback on that. They get individual coaching between the group calls. But the more important thing is that they own it at the local level. And ownership at the local level is how you find and keep great coworkers, particularly if you add the gravy from the regional and the home office support team members helping. I hope you've been able to pick up some ideas. I don't know if you have any, Mike, you can take this back down. I have a little time here if you've got questions. If not, you can email me later. And again, our phone number's there, and you can take a look at our website at Maun-Lemke if you need more details about some other techniques around this stuff. Does anybody have any questions? I'll just give a brief second on that.
Hey, Clint, I'm taking a look at the chat and I don't see any questions that have come through yet. But as always, Clint's got his email up on the screen. Please feel free to email him or even myself, and I will get the questions forwarded off to him. Clint, I appreciate you taking the time in today's session. This was very valuable information, and I appreciate all that came to join us today.
Thank you, Kim, very much. I appreciate working with you guys. By the way, PHCA also put out a recent blog in the Exchange newsletter that I did going into more detail about this. And if you want to read that. And anyway, it was a pleasure talking with you all today. Go get them. And more importantly, go keep them. All right?
Thanks
Bye-bye.
so much.
Bye-bye.